Welcome to the Nursing Post podcast, all nursing all the time with Ashley Moore and Rosa Horsley. In this episode from the Nursing Post, we will be talking about the novel coronavirus.
Imagine unemployment rates and the economy are at the best they've ever been. Within 2 weeks, the price of gas has dropped to $1.59, being cheaper than a gallon of milk. You have a full tank of gas, plane tickets, and airfare are at an all-time low to your dream destination, but you can't travel due to a shelter-in-place command. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes can't be found as people are purchasing and hoarding in mass amounts. Social distancing and essential workers are the new trending words. School is closed for the rest of the school year. There is no childcare, and Easter is canceled. COVID-19 has devastated the world in a pandemic.
To think about the fact that milk is cheaper than gas, that's the first time that's happened in what?
16 years? Yeah, I looked it up. So 16 years.
Right.
Because I was curious.
I've never thought there would be a time that I would go to the store and wouldn't be able to get toilet paper. I'm not really sure why toilet paper is the it thing for COVID, but
I don't understand the toilet paper or the hand sanitizer.
Because people did not have good hand hygiene before this started.
I think it just verifies that no one was washing their hands, and to this date, they still don't want to wash their hands because, in my opinion, they would be buying soap instead of hand sanitizer.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about what COVID is. We know it's a virus, but have we seen viruses like this before?
Not at this rate, no. I don't think so. So the coronavirus is caused by a virus that's very similar to the SARS virus. Coronaviruses are common in people and can be found in some animal species. It's really rare when animal viruses can infect people and then people spread it to other people, but it does happen, and it is called spillage or spillover. I believe the technical term is zoonotic disease, and like I said, it's rare, but it has happened in the past. So we know that this has happened with SARS, this has happened with Zika, the swine flu, H1N1, Ebola, and there are other strains. There's 4 other strains that are linked to the common cold.
Right, that are considered to be coronaviruses. The difference is this is called a novel coronavirus, which just means it's new. And these are, and the SARS, Zika, swine, Ebola, those are only a couple. I mean, there's a whole list.
Lot more.
But those are the big ones that even I know about that we've heard in the news in recent years. So the next part of this episode is going to be going over what symptoms that you may have if you catch the virus. Everybody knows the coughing, the shortness of breath, and that is how this spreads. But there are other symptoms beyond that we do know about. We have the extreme fatigue. We've seen that in a lot of people, or weakness, chills, headache, a lot of like flu-like symptoms where it's body aches, chills, sore throat, all of those things happen. And then there's some rare reports of inflammation of the eyes where we're seeing that over and over again.
Yeah, pink eye.
Just actually read another article about this weird rash that they're starting to see on COVID patients.
But when you think about it, it makes a little bit of sense because how do you get infected by anything? The flu, the cold, somebody sneezes or coughs, right?
Right.
And then you touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And then here you go rubbing your eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And you're touching your face or anything. And then that's exactly how you get it. That's exactly how it spreads. And that's one of the big reasons why social distancing is so important right now. A lot of people are, it's not going to happen to me. I'm not worried about it. I'm young. I can catch it and that's fine.
Not so much.
Right. Not so much.
It may be a strand of a common cold or a flu, but this is definitely no common cold or flu.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can have the coronavirus, not have symptoms, and still spread it.
Absolutely.
And
which we're learning about.
It's a work in progress across the world. And so how this virus is spread, we know, is through respiratory droplets.
Mm-hmm.
So sneezing, coughing are the big ones. Some people, when they talk, depending upon how they talk, can have that. And that's why it's important for everybody to wear the mask
Mhm.
when they're out. And that also really helps you from touching your face as well. It's kind of two parts in
Yes.
that a little bit. And then, of course, we just need to know that the healthcare workers who are our frontline workers, they do wear different equipment, but they're also in a much different situation where we are actually taking those droplets and putting them into the air when they intubate patients or use nebulizer or aerosol treatments, high flow oxygen. Then what that does is it takes the virus and puts it into the air. So that's completely different.
And it wasn't until we did research on this that I realized not everybody needs an N95.
No.
Not everybody needs an N95. People that are not in the front lines, that are just going to the grocery store, they can use homemade masks, cloth masks.
Exactly.
Surgical masks are really hard to find right now because there's a shortage in PPE in a lot of places. It's just covering yourself.
Right. It's what's important. And that's why a lot of hospitals and medical facilities are asking for people to donate those supplies back to the healthcare providers because they're in a different situation where they are actively working on patients who are critically ill, and they're doing that over and over and over again all day.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to not get this is to prevent it. That's with any kind of virus. So again, that kind of just goes right back around to some of what we've already talked about.
Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
And then when you're done with that, don't touch your face.
Yes.
And those two things alone, you're going to be in a good spot. But there's a couple of things you do. Stay away from people 6 feet. Stay at home.
Yes. So you don't really have to build that pool in the backyard right now.
No.
You really don't. It's okay.
Don't.
You can stay at home and protect yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely. We don't need to be buying flowers. It's okay. They'll
It's
be there.
Okay. If you don't have water and soap, use hand sanitizer, but that should not be your primary source of keeping your hands clean.
Exactly. And that's the nurse in us. We were always taught that washing your hand is a gold standard. That's what should be done first. And then a lot of people wash their hands and then use hand sanitizer just because we kind of touch gross things.
But nurses are taught to wash your hands before and after you go to the bathroom.
Right.
Before and after you eat.
Absolutely.
So we already wash our hands a lot, but now we're washing them even more.
Right. And everybody's hyper aware about that right now, but it wasn't very long ago when we would go to the bathroom and people would just walk right out when you're using a public restroom
and not wash their hands.
People didn't wash their hands.
All right. Moving on, we're going to wrap this up with a couple of newsworthy treatment options. So we know right now that this is a new virus and that there is no currently available cure or vaccine. So we know that it's in development. We know that some pharmaceutical companies have stepped up to the plate and are trying to produce a vaccine.
Right.
Johnson & Johnson has stepped up, and another pharmaceutical that I'm not really familiar with is Inovio Pharmaceuticals. And they're getting a lot of help from a lot of public figures.
Right.
Most definitely that is famous is Bill Gates, because he is spending literally billions of dollars into finding a cure and vaccine for this particular virus.
He's, I'm sure, not the only one. That's just one of the ones that I just thought, wow, he's just going to say, here's a couple billion just to get it going and see what can happen. And that goes to show you the good side of things that can happen during pandemics. And I like that. Another one that is really big in the news right now is the hydroxychloroquine and the azithromycin. It's not really been studied and shown effective like traditional treatments are. That the hydroxychloroquine is a medicine that's used a lot. It's an anti-malarial drug, but it's used a lot with autoimmune patients who have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. They're actually seeing a shortage in their medication, and a lot of people have halved their doses because they don't know if they're going to be able to get it. And I do know that there was a study done in France, and that had demonstrated some benefit, but there was a lot of flaws in it. And we'll link those, or I'll link the specific study so you can read it yourself. But they're trying to add more and more patients to that and kind of get a basic or a better structure to the study to see if it actually is a benefit.
Absolutely. And these patients that are taking these medications that we have and are talking about, they're technically the clinical trial.
Absolutely.
They're the clinical trial in this. So with all medications, even these, you have to weigh the benefit versus the risk.
Right. And if somebody's critically ill on a ventilator about to die,
that's a risk.
That's a risk. That's a pretty big risk
for the patient and benefiting them by taking the medication.
Absolutely. So it's really easy to pass judgment, but when you're not right there taking care of that patient that's dying in front of you, it's a completely different situation. Another medicine that I have read a little bit about was remdesivir. It's being used in other countries and really on a compassionate use basis. We don't have a lot of data on this one yet, not that I could find anyways, but what happens is, again, if you have a patient who is tanking and they're not doing well, the FDA says, yes, we'll pay for you to use this medicine to treat this patient. And the other one that I really liked was the convalescent plasma project. This is where you take patients who have recovered from COVID. Their bodies have developed antibodies to fight off the virus. That's the way our bodies work. Mm-hmm. And so you take blood from that person and you give it to a very sick person, and their body then will help start building those antibodies to help fight the infection.
Almost like a vaccination.
Kind of like a vaccination would work. Yeah, it tries to help boost that patient's immune system. And of course, the FDA took the lead on that at the beginning of this month. So I'm curious to see where that study kind of goes out to.
So let's talk some more about antibodies and immunity. Mm-hmm. Antibodies are normally produced in the patient's body. It takes about 7 to 10 days after the initial onset of a virus. The current information that we're using is really started back in January. Mm-hmm. This is new. We haven't had anything like this before. So we're trying to gather our current information and relate that to other coronaviruses like SARS and MERS, because they're so similar in strain. Mm-hmm. So we're getting our information from the current and from the past. And we're trying as hard as we can to calculate and come up with the best data that we can.
Right.
Not enough time and research has, allowed for collection to determine, if antibodies for this coronavirus will provide immunity and for how long that immunity will last.
Right.
The degree could also differ from person to person. People think that the younger that you are and the healthier that you are, the more robust your antibody production will be. And hopefully that will be what makes you immune to having this disease again in the future, or this virus again in the future.
Right. And the biggest part of this is that we just don't know. Honestly, a lot of people want answers. They want protocols. They want policies. Hospitals are making this up as they go because we've not seen this kind of pandemic before. Not in my lifetime.
Not in my lifetime.
Most of the people that we work and talk with have never seen it. So we have to be pliable and say, okay, we're going to work with this the best that we can with what we have. So with that in mind, we do ask that everybody listening to today's podcast understand that everything in today's episode is our opinion. Of course, we will link the information so that way people can look at it and read it themselves and make their own
decisions.
Right, make their own decisions. This is going to change. Without a doubt, this information is going to get updated and changed. Whether it's for the better or the worse, we don't know.
Well, I feel like the more cases there are, documented cases, because people are testing, they're testing positive, but we still don't have it rolled out to the point where everybody's being tested.
Correct.
If you have a mild case, you're not tested, you're not included in the numbers because you're self-quarantining at home. So we just have to keep in mind that this is ever changing. Mm-hmm. Every day the numbers are going to change. Every day the data is going to change based on what's collected.
Right. All we can do is say, hey, as this comes in, that's the new information we'll pour out. And the scientists that are working behind it are working probably a lot longer hours than most of us to make this work.
I agree. We'll link the references on our website.
Right.
You can find those at www.thenursingpostpodcast.com. Subscribe to our podcast, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening to the Nursing Post.